Judas Iscariot. The name itself is synonymous with betrayal. For 2,000 years, he's been the ultimate villain, the disciple who sold his master for 30 pieces of silver. But what if there's more to the story? What if the man we've condemned for millennia was not a simple traitor, but the most misunderstood disciple of all? Today, we're peeling back the layers of history, scripture, and controversy to ask, was Judas a betrayer, or was he a necessary part of a divine plan? Let's start at the beginning. In the Gospels, Jesus calls 12 men to follow him, to be his inner circle. Among them is Judas Iscariot. This raises an immediate, profound question. The scriptures say Jesus knew from the start who would betray him. So why choose Judas? Why place someone you know will hand you over to your enemies in a position of ultimate trust? Was it a test? A warning? Or was Jesus setting a celestial stage, casting Judas in a role he was destined to play? This choice is the first clue that Judas's story is far from simple. It suggests a purpose, a foreknowledge that complicates our black and white understanding of good and evil. Before the betrayal, Judas was not an outcast. He was a trusted, integral part of the group. He was appointed as the treasurer, the one who handled the disciples' money. This wasn't a minor role. It was a position of immense responsibility. It implies a level of trust and capability that we often forget. He walked with Jesus, listened to his teachings, and witnessed his miracles. He was there for the Sermon on the Mount, the feeding of the 5,000, the raising of Lazarus. He was a friend, a follower, a brother in the cause. Imagine the conversations they had, the meals they shared. This wasn't a distant enemy. This was an insider, which makes the eventual betrayal all the more shocking and heartbreaking. What could possibly have turned this trusted friend into the man who would lead soldiers to the Garden of Gethsemane? Then comes the act that sealed his infamy. The Last Supper, a final, poignant meal. Jesus announces that one of them will betray him. The air grows thick with tension. Soon after, Judas slips away into the night. He goes to the chief priests and agrees to hand over Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, the price of a slave. The act itself is cinematic in its tragedy. A garden at night, the flicker of torches, and a kiss. A symbol of affection and friendship, twisted into a signal for arrest. The one I kiss is the man, arrest him. With that single gesture, Judas sets in motion the final, brutal hours of Jesus' life. But was he acting on his own greed and malice? Or was he, perhaps knowingly or unknowingly, fulfilling a prophecy that had been written long before he was ever born? This moment, the kiss of betrayal, is the central mystery. Was it an act of free will, or the final, inevitable move in a divine chess game? For centuries, that was the only story we had. But in the 1970s, a discovery in the Egyptian desert threatened to turn history on its head. A text, believed to be a copy of a second-century document, was unearthed. It was called the Gospel of Judas. This wasn't a story of betrayal, but of a sacred mission. In this version, Jesus takes Judas aside and reveals to him secrets of the cosmos that the other disciples cannot comprehend. Jesus tells Judas, "You will exceed all of them, for you will sacrifice the man that clothes me." According to this Gnostic text, Judas doesn't betray Jesus, he helps him. He helps Jesus shed his physical body to release his divine spirit. In this narrative, Judas is not the villain, but the most enlightened disciple, the only one who truly understood the Master's plan. Now, this text is not part of the biblical canon and is considered heretical by mainstream Christianity, but its existence forces us to consider a radically different perspective. It suggests that, at least for some early Christians, Judas was not a traitor, but a hero. No matter which version of the story you believe, it ends in tragedy for Judas. The canonical Gospels of Matthew tell us that when Judas saw that Jesus was condemned, he was seized with remorse. He tried to return the 30 pieces of silver, crying out, "I have sinned, for I have betrayed innocent blood." But the priests rejected him. Overwhelmed by guilt and despair, Judas threw the money into the temple and went out and hanged himself. His end is as dark as his famous deed. But what does this regret tell us? A cold-hearted traitor wouldn't feel remorse. This was the act of a man broken by the consequences of his actions. Was this the desperate final act of a guilty conscience? Or was it the tragic, predetermined conclusion of his role in the divine drama? His death leaves us with one of the story's most haunting questions. Could Judas have found redemption, or was his fate from the very beginning, sealed? So, as we stand at the end of this complex and tragic tale, we're left with more questions than answers. The story of Judas Iscariot is a powerful exploration of some of life's biggest themes. It pits the concept of free will against the unshakable force of prophecy. Did Judas choose his path, or was it chosen for him? It forces us to examine the nature of loyalty, purpose, and the devastating weight of guilt. Can a single act, no matter how terrible, define a person's entire existence? And what is the possibility of redemption, even for the one who committed the ultimate betrayal? Judas was not just a historical figure. He is a mirror reflecting our own struggles with choice, consequence, and faith. Perhaps the true lesson of Judas is not about condemnation, but about compassion. It's a reminder that human motivations are rarely simple, and that the stories we think we know often have hidden depths. Whether he was a greedy traitor, a political zealot, a misguided friend, or a Gnostic hero, Judas Iscariot remains one of history's most compelling and enigmatic figures. His story challenges us to look beyond the surface, to question our assumptions, and to consider that even in the darkest of tales, there may be a flicker of misunderstood light. What do you think? Was Judas the ultimate villain, or the most tragic hero? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. This is a topic that has been debated for centuries, and I'd love to hear your perspective. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into one of history's greatest mysteries. If you enjoyed this exploration and want more content that challenges what you think you know, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us continue making videos like this. We'll see you in the next one.